What happens when the man crowned king before dancehall had a throne nearly loses everything to cancer? You get the story of Yellowman, a living legend who turned pain into power with a mic in one hand and critics in the other. Before the world caught on to Jamaica's sound, Yellowman was already running it, despite facing brutal rejection for his albinism and a cancer diagnosis that nearly killed him. In this video, we're breaking down the highs, the lows, and the fight that made him not just famous, but unforgettable. This is the heartbreaking tragedy of Yellowman, the original king of dancehall, starting in an orphanage. When you think of the origins of dancehall, it's impossible to ignore the raw, unapologetic force that is Yellowman. But before the stages, the fame, and the flashy suits, he was just Winston Foster, a little boy the world tried to forget. Abandoned at birth and treated like a ghost in his own country, Yellowman's early life reads more like a tragedy than the beginning of a musical legacy. Still, somehow, against the odds, he survived. Born in Kingston, Jamaica, Winston Foster didn't get the warm welcome most babies do. He was left behind by his parents shortly after birth, most likely because he was born with albinism. In a country where superstition and stigma ran deep, albinism wasn't just misunderstood. Instead of love and lullabies, Yellowman's earliest memories were shaped inside orphanages, including the Maxfield Children's Home and later the Alpha Boys School, a Catholic-run vocational home that just so happened to produce some of Jamaica's finest musical talents. But don't get it twisted, this wasn't some feel-good music saved him story from the jump. Life in the orphanage was anything but easy. Foster endured daily ridicule from kids and adults alike, often reduced to whispers, side eyes, or outright cruelty, simply because of the way he looked. In a society that didn't know how to treat someone who looked different, he became the target. And yet, he found a way to take all that pain and flip it into power. Rather than shrinking into the shadows, he gave himself a name that dared people to look straight at him: Yellowman. It was bold, it was brazen, and it was brilliant. He took what others used to mock him and turned it into a brand, standing tall in a world that wanted to ignore him. And then he grabbed a mic. The spotlight finds him. Most folks don't see second place as a win, but when a young Winston Foster stepped off the Tasty Talent stage in 1978 as the runner-up to Nadine Sutherland, he wasn't discouraged. A year later, he came back, snatched the top spot, and kicked off one of the most groundbreaking careers in Jamaican music history. You know him now as Yellowman, the man who turned ridicule into royalty and built a dancehall empire from sheer guts, rhythm, and a lot of sweat. This wasn't your average rags-to-riches story. Yellowman didn't stumble into success. He earned every bit of it on sun-drenched streets, working sound system parties that could stretch until sunrise. Like many DJs before him, Yellowman got his chops sharp out in the open, literally. He started performing at outdoor dances with Aces International, where the music was loud, the crowd was rowdy, and only the best survived the mic. And Yellowman, he owned it. By the early 1980s, Yellowman wasn't just a popular act in Kingston, he was the act. His lyrics were bold, his delivery was explosive, and his presence made you pay attention. He teamed up with heavyweight producer Henry Junjo Laws, and the studio magic began. In 1982, Yellowman dropped his first studio album, Mr. Yellowman, and let's just say things were never quiet again. The album was an instant hit, followed by the now iconic Zungu Zungu Gu Zungu Zeng in 1983. If you've ever heard that title track, you know why it hit so hard. Yellowman had that gift, not just clever rhymes or a sharp tongue, but a swagger you couldn't fake. And yeah, let's talk about the lyrics. Yellowman didn't exactly keep it PG. Tracks like Mad Over Me leaned heavy into sexual bravado, and he caught some serious heat for it. Critics labeled it slackness, but Yellowman wasn't backing down. As he once said, "I talk about sex, but it's just what happens behind closed doors. What I talk is reality." It was about honesty, raw and unfiltered, delivered straight to the dance floor. Even with the controversy, Yellowman kept the hits coming. During his Aces International days, he often performed with Vernon "Fathead" Rainford, creating an electric onstage chemistry that translated into some solid studio collabs. The 80s became Yellowman's playground. In that single decade, he dropped around 20 albums. That's right, 20. Titles like Duppy or Gunman, Bad Boy Skanking, and Zungu Zungu Gu Zungu Zeng were anthems. By 1981, he made history again, becoming the first dancehall artist to sign with a major American label. Columbia Records took a gamble on Yellowman, hoping to ride the reggae wave to the mainstream. His 1984 release, King Yellowman, under the Columbia banner, however, didn't land quite the way they hoped. The label pushed him to mix in disco and R&B elements, which didn't sit right with hardcore fans who loved him for his gritty sound and signature rhythms. The album flopped, and Columbia pulled the plug. But if you thought that was the end, you clearly don't know Yellowman. He went right back to what made him a legend: raw dancehall energy. He dusted himself off, hit the studios again, and didn't skip a beat. His return to form brought new hits, including a cover of Blueberry Hill in 1987 that dominated the charts in Jamaica. That song was more than a hit. It was a nod to the roots. Yellowman had met Fats Domino earlier in the decade, and the two shared a musical bond. Fats even gave him a copy of his version, a gesture Yellowman clearly took to heart. As the 90s rolled in, so did a new Yellowman. He wasn't just here to talk slackness anymore. After surviving a devastating cancer diagnosis and a string of surgeries, including one that permanently changed the shape of his face, he came back with a new focus. His '94 album Prayer stepped away from his earlier themes, leaning into spiritual reflection and gratitude. It was his way of thanking God, not just for fame, but for life. And the fans, they stayed with him. In the decades that followed, Yellowman proved he wasn't a relic, but a force. Albums like New York, 2003, Round 1 in 2005, and No More War, 2018, kept him in the conversation. He even crossed over into hip-hop, appearing as a guest vocalist on Run DMC's Roots Rap Reggae. That wasn't just a feature, it was a bridge between genres, showing just how deep Yellowman's influence ran. The man toured the globe with his Sagittarius band, lighting up stages in Nigeria, Spain, Peru, Sweden, Italy, Germany, France, the UK, the US, Canada, you name it. Whether it was a packed club or a festival crowd, Yellowman brought that same energy every time. He also picked up some well-deserved accolades along the way. He was nominated for the Grammy Award for Best Reggae Album twice, once in 1985 for King Yellowman, and again in '98 for Freedom of Speech. That made him the first dancehall artist ever to be recognized in that category. Private life and loves. Everybody knows Yellowman as the rough-voiced, quick-talking pioneer who changed the game for dancehall forever. But behind the mic, behind the flashy outfits and fire lyrics, there's a quieter, more grounded side of Winston Foster. A side not often seen in the spotlight. One where he's not the king of dancehall, but a husband, a father, and yes, an NBA superfan. Yellowman's rise to fame wasn't exactly smooth sailing. From being cast aside in childhood to battling cancer at the height of his career, he's had every reason to harden his heart. But one thing that's remained consistent through all of it, his wife, Rosie. She's been there from the start, not just cheering from the sidelines, but walking beside him every step of the way. Rosie wasn't some late career love interest or a music video co-star. No, she was part of his life before the awards, the record deals, or the international tours. Back when Yellowman was hustling in sound system circles and trying to prove himself to a crowd that didn't always know what to make of him, Rosie was already in his corner. You could say their love story grew in sync with his music career, both loud, proud, and impossible to ignore. Together, they have raised a family that stretches beyond the stage. The couple has multiple children, and their household wasn't filled with just dancehall beats. It had basketball games playing in the background, too. See, Yellowman isn't only passionate about music, he's also a huge fan of the NBA. Back in the mid-1980s, while his name was topping charts in Jamaica, Yellowman could also be found courtside at American basketball games. And he didn't just watch casually. This man was invested. So much so that he named one of his sons after Kareem Bam Abdul-Jabbar. That's not just a tribute, that's fandom on another level. And speaking of the next generation, the Foster family tree has another artist branching out. Yellowman's daughter Karima didn't just inherit his name, she inherited the music, the energy, and that undeniable charisma. But instead of riding on her father's coattails, she built her own identity. Karima found her sound and style, stepping into the spotlight while always keeping a respectful nod to where she came from. The coolest part? They perform together. Karima and Yellowman have hit the stage side by side in both live shows and studio recordings. Watching the two of them share the mic is like watching the past and present jam out in harmony. You can see the respect, the love, and the talent, all flowing from father to daughter with effortless chemistry. And don't let the lyrics fool you. Off stage, Yellowman is known for being a humble, family-first kind of guy. While his early music leaned into wild storytelling and bold punchlines, his private life was about stability. Yellowman didn't let fame turn his head. He built a home, nurtured a family, and stayed true to the people who believed in him before the fame. That kind of loyalty isn't easy in the entertainment world, especially in a genre that celebrates flash and bravado. But Yellowman always marched to the beat of his own drum, and that includes how he handles relationships. He didn't just break musical rules, he broke stereotypes too, showing that even the boldest performers can have a soft spot when it comes to their people. Philosophy. Yellowman might have built his name on raw lyrics and big energy, but when it comes to real-world damage, he draws a hard line. Behind the bold bars and controversial tracks is a man who's seen the effects of violence up close and isn't interested in glamorizing it. In fact, he spent a good part of his later career trying to set the record straight and push younger artists toward a message that hits harder than any beat: responsibility. You might expect a dancehall veteran known for slackness to double down on shock value, but not Yellowman. Instead of trying to keep up with the new wave of rappers and DJs chasing viral fame through dangerous lyrics, he's been using his platform to call it out. In a 2005 interview with the Montreal Mirror, Yellowman didn't hold back. He said what a lot of folks were thinking, but were too afraid to say out loud. "Now it's not your entertainment or teaching," he said, pointing out how modern artists often trade substance for flash. He called out the obsession with wealth, fame, and materialism, saying it leads some artists down a dark road. All they do is sing about drugs, clothes, car, house. When they can't get it, they get violent. That's not a theory for Yellowman. It's personal. He grew up with real hardship, not staged music video drama. From being abandoned as a child to surviving cancer, Yellowman knows what pain looks like. He knows what it does to people. So when he hears younger artists glorifying violence, he doesn't hear lyrics, he hears danger. "I know what violence is like and what it can contain and what it can do," he said plainly. It's the kind of warning that doesn't come from a boardroom or a PR team. It comes from lived experience. And it's exactly why Yellowman says he's glad to see some artists returning to roots reggae and more conscious music. But it's not just about guns and gang talk. Yellowman has also stepped up to challenge one of dancehall's darkest patterns: homophobia. Now, let's be real. Yellowman came up in an era where offensive lyrics were often treated like crowd pleasers. And some of the slackness tunes that made him famous were part of a style that didn't exactly hold back when it came to questionable content. But over the years, he's made it clear he's not standing behind hate. In that same Montreal Mirror interview, Yellowman addressed the issue head-on. No vague statements, no dodging, just truth. "Everybody listen to me. I don't do songs against gay people. I don't do violent lyric against gay people," he said. That alone was a huge statement from someone with his level of influence, especially in a genre that has often been criticized for its homophobic messages. His message was simple but powerful. If you don't like a person or you don't like a thing, you don't talk about it. You don't come on stage and say kill them or burn them because everybody have a right to live. That's not just tolerance, that's accountability. In an industry where many artists sidestep controversial topics to avoid backlash, or worse, lean into them to chase attention, Yellowman's stance is rare. He's not pretending he never made mistakes, but he's making it clear where he stands now. That kind of growth matters, especially when it comes from someone who helped shape the genre in the first place. He's not just telling young artists to do better, he's showing them how. What makes Yellowman's words carry even more weight is the fact that he doesn't need to say any of this. He could have stayed quiet, collected his royalties, and performed the hits people came to hear. But that's not his style. Yellowman has always been loud, but now his message is louder than ever. He's a reminder that real power isn't in tearing people down. It's in using your voice to lift people up. Whether he's calling for an end to violence, rejecting hateful speech, or simply urging artists to stop chasing fake dreams and start creating real messages, Yellowman's legacy isn't just built on music, it's built on meaning. So, yes, he brought fire to the dancehall scene. Yes, he ruffled feathers with his slackness. But when it mattered most, Yellowman didn't just rhyme, he spoke up. And in doing that, he proved something every artist should remember. You don't need to shout hate to be heard. You just need to say something worth listening to. Cancer enters the story. When doctors told Yellowman he had 6 months left, they didn't know who they were talking to. This wasn't just another artist. This was a man who had already survived being thrown away as a child, mocked for his appearance, and doubted at every turn. So when cancer showed up at his door in the 1980s, Yellowman didn't back down. He laced up, grabbed the mic, and made the fight personal. In 1982, at the height of his rise, Yellowman received a diagnosis that shook his world: skin cancer. For a performer whose entire career relied on his voice, energy, and presence, this news was devastating. But even with this life-altering health scare, he refused to hit pause. After several operations, it seemed the worst had passed. The disease appeared to be under control. He kept touring. He kept recording. Fans barely knew the battle he was fighting behind the scenes. But the quiet victory didn't last. Between 1984 and 1986, things took a dark turn. The cancer hadn't been defeated. It had moved to his jaw. And this time, the stakes were even higher. The tumor was aggressive, the threat was real, and the doctors were blunt. If he wanted a shot at living, he'd need a major operation, and fast. The surgery that followed was brutal. A large section of Yellowman's lower left jaw had to be removed to cut out the tumor. The procedure saved his life, but it came at a cost. His face was permanently altered. The man who once commanded stages with confidence and charisma now had to rebuild his life and his image from scratch. Most people would have stopped right there. Fame is hard enough with perfect health and a flawless face. But Yellowman never measured himself by other people's standards. Instead of hiding, he spent time recovering and planning his return. And in 1987, just a year after major reconstructive surgery, he came back. Scarred, but not silent. Yellowman returned to live performances with the same fire that made him a star in the first place. But something had changed, not just in his appearance, but in his message. The man who once filled songs with wild stories and raunchy rhymes had grown. He wasn't here just to entertain anymore. He had something to say. Through pain, he found purpose. And with that shift came a new sound. In the 1990s, Yellowman started leaning into a more socially aware style. No longer content to just party on the beat, he used his platform to talk about real issues: poverty, injustice, inequality. His lyrics still hit hard, but now they carried the weight of someone who'd been to hell and clawed his way back. Then in '97, the comeback hit another high note. Yellowman dropped Freedom of Speech, an album that let people know he was done being just a dancehall act. He was now a voice of reason, a survivor with something deeper to offer. That album earned him a Grammy nomination for Best Reggae Album, proving that his second act was just as powerful, if not more, than the first. What made this era of Yellowman so special wasn't just the awards or critical praise, it was the honesty. You could feel it in every word. This wasn't a man chasing clout. He was speaking from experience about survival, self-worth, and the fight for dignity. And audiences listened. You see, Yellowman's battle with cancer wasn't just physical. It was emotional, spiritual, and professional. The music industry doesn't always treat its wounded kindly, but instead of being pushed to the side, Yellowman pushed back. He challenged the idea that artists have to look a certain way to be relevant, that you have to be untouched by life to be loved. His story reminded fans that true talent isn't in a perfect face or a catchy hook. It's in the ability to keep going when everything's stacked against you. That's what kept people coming to his shows. That's what made him more than a musician. It made him a symbol. Even in the face of fear, he never stopped doing what he loved. Cancer tried to silence him, but Yellowman had already spent a lifetime refusing to be ignored. Whether it was the cruel treatment he endured for his albinism, the disapproval over his explicit lyrics, or the industry trying to box him in, he always came out swinging. And let's not forget, he did it all with style. Even after surgery, even after the jaw was gone, he performed. He smiled, he joked, he connected. That kind of resilience doesn't come easy. It's earned through years of struggle, heartbreak, and the kind of mental toughness most people never have to find. Today, Yellowman stands as a living legend, a survivor in every sense of the word. His influence on dancehall is undeniable. His impact on reggae is forever. And his ability to bounce back from the brink? That's the stuff icons are made of. There's a reason why he continues to tour worldwide, decades after his first hit. It's not just nostalgia, it's respect. People don't just want to hear the music. They want to feel the presence of a man who's faced death, stared it down, and kept dancing anyway. Where he is now. Once hailed as the King of Dancehall and known worldwide for his unmistakable voice and magnetic stage presence, Yellowman continues to surprise and inspire in 25, not by slowing down, but by doubling down on his legacy. The artist once counted out by doctors, dismissed by society, and underestimated by critics is very much still here, very much still working, and very much still making noise, both on stage and off. Now in his late 60s, the legendary DJ who once defied the odds stacked against him due to albinism, poverty, and cancer, has re-emerged with a new sense of purpose that goes beyond the music charts. Yellowman today isn't just a performer, he's a walking, talking symbol of resilience and reinvention. In recent years, his live shows have become a spiritual experience for fans, blending high-energy nostalgia with messages of perseverance and peace. He's taken his role as a reggae elder statesman seriously, often pausing mid-performance to reflect on his past struggles, including his survival from a life-threatening illness and the prejudices he faced growing up. With a voice aged like finely fermented dub and a heart still pulsing with rebellious rhythm, he's chosen to use his influence now more than ever to speak out on social issues, especially among the youth. Despite a face marked by surgery and time, it's his words that leave the deepest impression these days. He's vocal about his commitment to anti-violence messaging and continues to challenge the direction of modern dancehall and hip-hop, pushing for more meaningful lyrical content and less glorification of materialism and aggression. His artistry has evolved, fusing classic reggae sensibilities with poignant critiques of today's cultural landscape. Yellowman has embraced a mentorship role, frequently collaborating with up-and-coming Jamaican artists both in studio and in live jam sessions. His daughter, Karima, is now a performing artist in her own right, often joining him on stage and co-producing music that speaks to generational unity and change. Their chemistry is more than blood. It's a shared fire for purpose-driven music. Yellowman's personal life remains as grounded as his music is expansive. He and his wife Rosie, his rock since the very beginning of his career, remain a tight unit, supporting each other through the highs and lows of shim, illness, and now, legacy building. He often credits Rosie's unwavering love and partnership as one of the key reasons he's still standing tall today, a sentiment that shines through in interviews and quiet moments on social media. Yellowman has also become somewhat of an accidental wellness advocate, openly discussing how he's adapted his lifestyle to stay healthy in his later years, even throwing in the occasional herbal remedy or juice detox tip when asked. Despite his age and past battles, his energy remains electric on stage, and he continues to draw large crowds, many of whom weren't even born during his peak in the 1980s. Yet his appeal remains timeless. His lyrics, once full of sharp edge and slack wit, now carry a touch more introspection without losing the bounce that made him a legend. His fan base today is beautifully diverse, from old-school reggae lovers still skanking in the aisles to young music heads discovering the roots of the genre. Offstage, Yellowman remains an active voice in Jamaica's cultural conversation, using interviews and appearances to speak out against homophobia, violence, and the exploitation of young artists. His take is simple but powerful. Art should uplift, not destroy. He's managed to do the near impossible, stay relevant without selling out, and evolve without erasing the past. Yellowman is currently working on new music that merges traditional reggae instrumentation with modern soundscapes. He's not trying to fit into the current mold. Instead, he's reshaping it. There's talk of a biographical documentary in the works, which he's hinted at in recent interviews, hoping to show people not just what he's done, but what he's endured. For those who have followed his career from the beginning, this phase of Yellowman's life feels like the encore we didn't know we needed. A softer, but no less commanding version of the man who once took the stage with nothing but bravado and grit. Today, his rhythm is steadier, his message is sharper, and his presence as magnetic as ever. Whether mentoring youth, performing beside his daughter, or simply flashing that signature smile under his crown of dreadlocks, Yellowman proves that legends don't fade, they evolve. And in 25, he's doing just that, one beat, one verse, and one purpose-driven performance at a time. From a childhood spent battling stigma to a stage career that redefined dancehall, Yellowman's life is nothing short of legendary. He wasn't just the first albino artist to break through Jamaica's tough music scene. He was a revolutionary force with a mic in one hand and resilience in the other. His sound wasn't always clean, but it was always real. And when cancer tried to cut the music short, he came back swinging, not just with a new voice, but with a new message. Yellowman's journey wasn't paved with gold. It was carved from grit, pain, and an unshakable belief in his craft. Surviving an aggressive cancer diagnosis that stole a part of his jaw but couldn't touch his spirit, he rose again in the late 80s, performing live and reinventing himself. His later work evolved into something more powerful than party anthems. It became purposeful, tackling injustice, violence, and hate with a mature lyrical edge that proved dancehall could carry depth as well as rhythm. Now in 25, he's still standing, touring, inspiring, and showing the world that icons don't fade, they transform. Whether he's on stage or mentoring the next wave of artists, Yellowman's legacy continues to ripple through reggae and beyond. If his story moved you, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more legendary stories from the world of music, and drop a comment below telling us your favorite Yellowman track. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a moment from the legends who shaped the soundtrack of generations. Because some voices, no matter how scarred, deserve to be heard forever.